I'm finding every animal in the UK. We're lucky enough to have a plethora of incredible creatures to search for and see here, but one thing we're missing is an apex predator. Now I know what you're thinking, the UK's already got one, me. But unfortunately, there's only one of me and around 2 million deer, so I'm a bit outnumbered to say the least. But it hasn't always been like this. Lynx, wolves and even brown bears used to roam these lands freely, and they did an excellent job of managing the herbivores' populations. I'll be discussing both the potential positives and negatives of reintroducing these animals in this video. Let's start with the benefits. As I already mentioned, there are around 2 million deer in the UK, and these animals have a large impact on the ecosystem as a whole. One of the areas where this is most apparent is in Scotland. Well over 90% of Scotland's woodlands have been lost. We as humans may have had a small role to play in this ourselves, but deer are definitely a contributing factor too. They selectively graze on herbs, shrubs and young trees, so in areas such as this, any plants that would eventually develop into woodlands are quickly yoinked out, chewed up and shot out before they get the chance. Deer also damage existing trees when they strip the bark from them. This makes them more prone to disease, and the more trees that are stripped, the faster diseases can spread amongst them, which can result in large numbers of more mature trees dying. So here lies the first most obvious benefit of an apex predator reintroduction. All lynx, wolves and brown bears would keep deer in check. Their presence would cause them to constantly travel, and therefore they wouldn't overgraze individual areas too much. This could spark a huge amount of woodland rejuvenation, which would then go on to create a far more biodiverse landscape, capable of supporting a vastly large number of species, both animal and plant alike. Although views such as these are quite dramatic, they are almost totally devoid of wildlife, with deer being one of the only animals you'd be likely to come across. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love deer, but variety keeps life spicy, as they say. So I think a few more creatures wandering around sunny old Scotland would be a wonderful thing. The activity of apex predators can have benefits on all sorts of other animals. Leftover carcasses can provide much needed food for other smaller predators, such as badgers, foxes and pine martens, as well as birds of prey like owls, eagles and hawks. Another animal that would benefit would be beavers. These awesome animals are in the early stages of reintroduction to the UK themselves, and I'll definitely be making a full video on them just as soon as I track down the little dam building blighters. They could potentially be right at home across the UK, including in rivers in Scotland, but without trees to make dams from, there is little hope of them settling into those areas. So via the apex predator's prey population control, more areas could develop into appropriate beaver habitats, and then they could get to work and start benefiting the environment in their own ways, of which there are many. I can back this point up personally. If they introduced lynx, wolves or brown bears anywhere in the UK, I'd be down there in half a jiffy to find them, film them and stick them on YouTube. And I'm sure plenty of other animal enthusiasts would too. This influx of tourism would benefit local businesses and communities by giving another reason to visit these places. One of my subscribers mentioned to me recently that there are wolves present in the Netherlands, which was definitely news to me, and my first thought was that I need to go there and track them down at some point. I would truly love to share the UK's woodlands with lynx, wolves or bears, but there are of course two sides to every story, so let's look at the potential issues that a reintroduction could cause, as well as all the ways these issues could be overcome. All three of the animals I've mentioned would kill livestock. That would be inevitable. Therefore, farmers aren't exactly waving the reintroduction banner just yet, but there are ways of overcoming this issue. One method would be the use of livestock guardian dogs. These absolutely brutal pooches, such as Pyrenees or Mastiffs, are very efficient at protecting farm animals and could certainly be utilised to keep apex predators at bay. Another idea would be to have a government scheme that compensated farmers for any livestock loss. This money in part could be funded by the increase in ecotourism that I mentioned earlier. One final idea would be teaching livestock self-defence such as Krav Maga, although I had a brief look online and there doesn't seem to be many companies offering this right now. Wolves haven't been present in the UK for around 300 years, lynx for around 1300 and brown bears for around 1500. so it's been a hot minute since we coexisted with a predator any bigger than a badger. This, coupled with the general demonisation of these animals via stories, myths and films, have led to a general fear of these creatures altogether, and this in turn leads to disapproval of reintroduction. Now, to be fair, brown bears especially are utterly terrifying as well as beautiful animals. So I can see where the fear comes from, and if I'm being realistic, I think especially brown bears don't stand a chance of setting foot on UK soil ever again. But wolves and lynx are a different story. Between 2002 and 2020, there were only 26 fatal wolf attacks worldwide, which isn't that far off just one per year. And as for lynx, I wasn't able to find a single documented case of a fatal lynx attack anywhere ever. So fear surrounding these animals seem to be overinflated and disproportionate. In comparison, there are over 30,000 deaths every year from our beloved pooches worldwide, and there are around 12,000 fatalities caused by falling down stairs. So you're better off fearing walking your dog down an escalator than you are being scared of wolves and lynx. The best hope that we have for tackling this issue is simply via education, which is something I've tried to do just a little smidgen of now. You're welcome, wolves. Predators such as wolves and lynx require vast territories, and the UK's list of massive untouched landscapes sadly only grows shorter. Many argue that the only viable options for apex predator reintroduction lie in areas such as Northumberland and Scotland. Even then, there's a question of whether these animals would choose to settle in these areas should they be released there. They are obviously vastly intelligent wild animals, and they would be more than likely to venture wherever they pleased and wherever the food came the easiest. And no one wants to bump into a wolf in Tesco, do they? To overcome an issue like this would take massive rewilding efforts and the creation of wildlife corridors, which would allow these animals the opportunity to roam more freely, rather than being confined to specific areas. As you may have picked up on by now, I'm on the pro-reintroduction side of the fence. But I can admit that I'm biased as I'm attempting to build a career out of finding animals. But the way I see it is, these animals used to naturally occur here and call this place home just as much as we do. And it was because of humans that these creatures no longer exist here. Had we not have hunted them to extinction and destroyed the vast majority of suitable habitats, we would still share our country with these apex predators. And without trying to have too much of a dig at our own species, we have caused more damage to other species and environments than all other animals combined. So I feel like focusing on the negative issues that these animals could present is a little bit pot calling the kettle blackish. And instead, we should focus on the benefits that these magnificent creatures could unleash upon our country. My ultimate goal in life is to buy a massive piece of land to rewild personally. It's safe to say I'm a few million quid off realising this dream, but it is something that I firmly believe I will achieve one day. And then who knows, maybe by then I'll be able to sneak a cheeky lynx, wolf or bear into the UK myself. If you would like to help me realise this dream, please consider subscribing to my channel, or better yet, my Patreon, and then one day you can come to visit me on the land you would have helped to fund. The link will be down below. Let me know your thoughts on this topic in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.